You see, you want to be friendly with your kids, but you don't want to be their friends. Let me explain in more detail. You see, there should be a loving relationship between parents and their children. It should be a feeling of nurture, of loyalty, discipline, and correction. But it becomes a problem when you try to be on equal terms with your children. That's just unacceptable. There has to be a boundary, there has to be a distinction. There has to be plenty of moments and instances where it's clear that, hey, I'm the elder statesman, if you will. I pay the bills, I pay the taxes, I run the household, I dictate the direction of where this family goes, and you have to go along with it. What we have a problem with nowadays is too many parents trying to be on equal terms with their children. It's where you get this misconception of gentle parenting, giving your kids too much leeway, and then they don't respect you. That's where you have instances of kids running around and really wanting an authority figure by the way that they act, the things they get involved in, whether it be drugs, sexual promiscuity, immorality, things of that nature. But there's no one to correct them or corral them. And then they look at the adults in the household and they don't hold them to a standard. They don't hold them to a moral or a biblical standard. That's what leads to problems. Where does that come from? That whole idea of wanting to be friends with your kids. And really what it comes down to is a fear of being disliked. Far too many people in this world operate with a fear of being liked, and you can't move that way in general in the world, but especially when it comes to being a parent. You're going to have to do things to where you're not going to be liked. You might even have your kids tell you that they hate you or they can't stand you. Okay, but as long as you respect me, that is what's most important here. There has to be a hierarchy. Just like the Lord Jesus Christ has domain, or he should have domain, if you're a believer, if you're a Christian, over the man of the household, so should that man have that domain and authority over the children. You see, it gets out of place. Speaking of society and large scale thing, we've gotten the roles mixed up. We've got children that think they're adults and act like they're adults and end up ruining their lives because they think they can do adult things when they still have a child's mindset and a child's demeanor. And then you've got parents that either try to be their equal, try to be lesser in some cases. We've got mixed up roles where the woman, the wife, is controlling, dictating everything, and the husband is just an innocent bystander, doesn't have any say, doesn't have any control. And we've got this confusion and confliction of roles, and it's like, no wonder there's so much chaos going on in the world. No wonder you have these kids that act a fool, that don't even do basic things like say please and thank you, hold the door open for somebody, show any kind of regard, talk disrespectfully, whether it be foul language that you hear from little kids, which that is just unacceptable. Or one thing I can't stand is when kids go around and call everyone bruh, call everyone bro. You got 12-year-old kid going up to adults instead of calling them sir or mister or dad, calling them bro. Like, you're not my bro. You're a 10, 11-year-old kid and I'm a 40-year-old man and you're sitting over here calling me bro and bruh. I don't play that. That's just not something that should be acceptable. But we would let this happen. We've gotten to a point where we've tried to make the family situation so fluid and acceptable to everybody, and a family can be defined in anything. And love was what makes a family. We don't need to have any boundaries. And that's where you have disarray, you have disrespect. And then again, going to my larger topic, you have this situation where parents are giving up ground to their children. So I have some suggestions how to circumvent that if you fall into that trap. First and foremost, establish the ground rules of, again, who pays the bills, who sets forth the direction of the family. More specifically, let's say you get your children a toy, a video game, a bicycle, whatever it might be. And give them reminders that, hey, that's not your Nintendo, that's not your bike, that's not your video game, that's mine. That's my video game. And I just let you use it. When your kids get mad in a huff and say, I'm going to my room. No, hold on. Last time I checked, my name was on the deed. My name is on the mortgage or the lease. So that's my room that I let you stay in. So just remind them of that. Whenever they want to be domineering and controlling of stuff, just give them those little reminders. And you're going to think I'm sounding too harsh or whatever, but trust me on this. I'm telling you, it is much better and much easier in the long term if you're a little too harsh, a little too stern, and then you taper off a little bit later. It's always better to do that than to be too soft in the beginning and too lenient in the beginning, too friendly in the beginning, and then you have to toughen up because they won't respect you. I bet there's some parents out here, some people listening out there that have gone too easily on the lenient part from the beginning. They didn't have any moral base. They just let their kids free roaming. And now I bet a lot of you are dealing with kids that say that they have anxiety and depression and all these mental health issues. And they're saying that they're struggling, they're fearful. They're going through all these struggles, probably abusing substances, getting involved in promiscuity, unexpected pregnancies, all these kind of things. You're dealing with this stuff because you didn't want to be man enough, you didn't want to be woman enough to set a standard and maybe be hated sometimes and not be their friend sometimes. Oh, I don't want little Johnny to be mad at me or think that I'm a bad dad. Or I don't want them to hate me and not be my best friend. I've already come to terms with this, but there's times where my kids are just not going to like me. Okay? But I'd rather them be respectable, God-fearing people that have resentment towards me. I'd rather them have that than to think that I'm the coolest dad and to call me by Daniel instead of dad or pop. And then they wreck their lives. And they get involved in all kinds of reckless behavior because they have no moral background. So if that means I'm not my kids' best friends, okay, so be it. I know they'll love me, they'll respect me, but there's always going to be that sort of divide between what I say, what I think, and what their friends think, or what the other people in school think, or even as they get into adult, the other people, if they go to college, what they think, their coworkers think. There's always going to be a boundary of how they act and how they respect others because of how they act and respect towards me. And that's how you should be operating as a parent. You should be like, I love my kids so much that they're not going to like me at sometimes. Period and point blank. And if you care too much about your kids liking you or think that you're the cool dad or the cool mom, you need to stop it. Okay, you're playing yourself. You're overcompensating. We have too much overcompensating going on in society. People want to be liked and have attention, get the most likes and clicks and subscribers and all that kind of stuff. And it's just all these arbitrary things we do to have attention and stay relevant. And it doesn't matter in the end. What matters in the end is that your family, your kids are respectable human beings. Again, based on a template, a foundation, that biblical template, and not just winging it, and certainly not just doing things to make them happy or satisfied. God forbid you don't look cool sometimes. So that's what I have to say about that. So just remember, everybody, your kids, you can be friendly with them, love, respect, and all that kind of stuff with the discipline, but don't be their friends. All right? Peace. God bless.